Good day, beautiful people. Thanks again for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about the drama that happened between my family and I. I had a conversation with my father about 2 months ago, and we spoke for over an hour, and he agreed with me on almost everything that we talked about. He was following all along. And I said, well, can we do a transparent conversation so we can share it to people so people know the truth behind the story? And he said, okay, well, I'll think about it. And I left the ball in his court to call me back. I didn't hear from him again. So I contacted him again. This time I recorded the conversation. Some people would say, why would you record your father's conversation? Well, to be honest, it doesn't matter the blood that runs through your skin. Stand firm, and we need to expose the darkness in this world. It doesn't matter if it is your father or not. And to be honest, my father is the Father in heaven, and the family I have is the family that does the works of God. So these people are the dead that I'm letting bury the dead, and I'm going forward with my family of God. And it says in Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So all these people out there that says, no, just let God be the judge. Well, you're not reading your Bible very well, because we are supposed to be out here making valued judgments on the world. We need to have a balance between judgment and mercy. And so whenever I hear these kind of passive spiritualities, it frustrates me, because I know that's part of the reason we've got to this point in the world. Nobody's willing to expose these dark people and their two-faced Machiavellianism, and then they take over the world and people are harmed from it. So this is why I'm going to put this phone call out for you guys to see the truth that comes out in this conversation. And it's very important for me for this truth to come out, because the stories that have been told about me are ridiculous, and the fact that my family will not have a conversation with me about it to expose the darkness means they are a part of that darkness. And it's very obvious when you listen to what my dad has to say that he is very much a part of the wickedness. I know ignorance is wickedness and is darkness, and I will expose it. So please, all of you out there that are listening, just listen, and it says a lot. This video says a lot, and it exposes a lot. I'm going to be sending this out to people in my old family, like my cousins and my aunts and uncles and stuff, because I want them to know my side of the story. I'm certain they haven't heard anything about any of the darkness that's happened around this story. So please, if you could pass this video out and put it around. This is one of my most important videos, because it vindicates me hugely, and it puts a person on my side that is actually telling what really happened. So thank you all very much, and here's the video.
Hello there.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. What have you been up to?
Oh, just not a lot. Just going to the gym and stuff, and doing the usual thing. Nothing earth-shattering by any means.
Nothing new, and you haven't learned anything new about the world or anything?
Oh, I'm watching the weird shit going on.
You haven't wanted to have this conversation. It's been a while. We had that one talk on the phone that was like over an hour. Like, how long was that? Over an hour, right?
Yeah.
And we came to agree on quite a few different things. And I said, let's get together and be transparent about this. And you haven't wanted to do so, because you haven't contacted me, I assume.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where to begin.
Well, that's why we'll just have conversation, and then you see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, there's on your guys' side, is you guys would have to justify your actions from your side, and tell exactly how you justify that? The words that came from who? Like I should face my accusers. Should I not?
Accusers.
Like the people that called and said stuff about me that none of you guys saw and just heard hearsay and called mental health on it. What do you think that those are people that accused me of things? Then I should be able to face them, yes?
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, I get some cases, yeah.
So Jordan tells me that because he led that, and he said some people told him or somebody told him from the community. I'm assuming, I'm not even going to say who I assume it is because I'm not even going to speculate because I want to know it from the person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I'm looking through, I just was doing this because I want to like check what's going on, like if any what kind of evidence you guys have of me being some kind of person that's going to hurt myself or somebody else. And I look at all the texts, and you should read the text. Like I call you guys out pretty hard, but then I tell you guys I love you, and I like, I'm very much, it was being straightforward and telling you guys how much there's no, I'm I'm just curious, where does this idea that somebody was going to get hurt or I was going to hurt myself come from?
Well, I don't know where that idea about somebody would hurt you, that you would hurt yourself, because I never believed that. So I don't know who would believe that.
And so somebody said that I was, I've heard it from different sources, that I was threatening people with knives. And Jordan calls up mental health instead of comes and talks to me like a human would come. Usually they would, like, before, especially if you'd think they would put enough trust that their brother's not this story that somebody's saying about them. You would think that maybe he'd come out and visit and be like, hey, what's going on? Call me up. I invited him over the night the cops showed up here on that mental health call. I invited him over for steak dinner. And instead he sent the freaking police. Like, people want to have a conversation, then they can have a conversation. But I think the fact that you guys don't want to have a conversation is because you don't want to apologize for some things that were uncalled for, because then you'd have to take responsibility.
Well, I don't know. Like I say, I don't know all the details of who called when and what and whatever. But just like I say, I was on the phone with you at that time, and you were expecting Jordan to show up. I know that, and the cops showed up.
So, and you knew nothing about them calling mental health on me, like while we were on the phone then?
No.
So they did it behind your back. The person that has actually seen me in 6 months, like pretty often, they did it behind your back?
What do you mean behind my back? Nobody
well, I was talking on the phone with you, and you knew Jordan was on his way over, right? And you obviously knew nothing. You obviously knew nothing about mental health being called right then, right?
No.
So they did it behind your back.
Yeah, whoever did it.
And isn't that kind of strange that it was Michelle, it was Jordan, it was Megan, and like Megan was covered, like, you know how like hard, you know how crazy women get when you've broken up with them. You know how like the craziness about this story is like, and you know, so again, did he ever tell you who said this hearsay about me that made him call mental health on me?
No, he didn't.
And do you think that that's kind of weird that, because Jordan, the only time that he'd really seen me before that is when we got in that scuffle at the restaurant. That's the only time in like 6 months I'd seen him.
Was it that long? Okay.
I have all the evidence. It's on my phone. It's in text. You can see how long it's been since any of us were talking to each other. Same with Michelle. It's even longer for Michelle. And somehow they were going to just do that. What do you feel about that?
Well, I don't feel good about it. I don't know what happened, how it happened, who instigated it. I don't know anything about that.
What do you feel about the fact that your daughter and son called on mental health on your other son, who they hadn't seen except for the time that they got in a fight where Jordan jumped at me, by the way. That was the only time Jordan had seen me in all that time. So do you think that, considering they hadn't been around, and that do you think that that was cool for them to go behind your back, which you've been seeing me like all the time, so you think they'd be able to talk to you about whether I was dangerous or not, and whether they should get police involved?
Well, the thing is, I don't know who else was involved, who was talking to who. I don't know any of that.
I know that much now, but I'm asking you, what's your opinion on that situation? Like, don't you think that that's a bit like, what the hell's going on here? Like, you didn't consult me, and I'm the only one that's been having a relationship with Patrick?
Yeah, that bothers me.
And do you think that there might be a reason I want to have a conversation about this stuff? I actually know I was paranoid, but I also did have my dog poisoned. I had people threatening me. I had multiple threats at me. So obviously I'm going to, sometimes it's a paranoia if it's pathological, but maybe there's times you should be ready for something if you're having people coming at you. Wouldn't you think?
I would think so, yeah.
And so, but you know very well about me is that I am not somebody that goes around starting fights with people. And you know that I would be only a person that would defend myself. Like, I went to karate, and you know that I learned that from Lyle Cheney. You know that all about me, right?
Yeah.
So like, I was never in my character to ever start fights with people in the whole time that you've known me.
You told me yourself that you were going downtown and it was like you were intimidating people just to strut your stuff or to show that you weren't afraid of them. I remember you telling me that. And you don't think that would cause any of these morons to come back at you?
First of all, what I did say to you was, I was walking by those guys, and I looked at them, just, and they were like sitting in front of the shop, and that wasn't me doing it. I was walking there, and I looked them in the eye, and I watched them walk off. If you're talking about the time that I walked by the shop, that wasn't like me trying to intimidate people. I was living at the freaking hotel on Baker Street, was I not? I was walking my dog down Baker Street. That's how you read into the situation. I said I looked the guys in the eye instead of, like, all the stuff that was happening to me. I just told you what I did with those two people, and they walked off after that's why I told you about it. I saw them like actually walk off. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. First of all, that's like out of context from first, and even that, does that have any context towards me like trying to hurt people, and that I'm dangerous, that needs to be locked in the mental institution because of that comment that you just said? Even if I had said I was strutting around and like trying to start fights, which is kind of like what you're trying to say there, even if that was the case, is that enough for it's ridiculous, but even if is that enough do you think that I'm like going out to try to hurt people? Do you think like that was that intent of what I was saying in that?
No, I don't think so.
So again, not justification for having cops called out on me and having like, a $60,000 loss in my life because of these things. So again, I want to ask, like, it's not just the loss, obviously, too. Like, there's more involved there. But what do you feel about the situation? Wouldn't you like think that a conversation would be good?
Yeah, if you could actually sit down with people.
Well, who's, you know what? The other thing is like, I said this to you last time, but I want to say it again because it's really powerful. I want to ask you, who's been the person that's been calling to like check in over the last like year since this all happened?
What do you mean calling to check in?
Who's the one that keeps on calling and trying to have these conversations? Who's the one that's trying to provoke a conversation between us to try to deal with this?
Okay, that's you.
And in all of this, like last year, have you ever called me?
No, in about a year, but
No, you haven't. So okay, so like if people were like they telling themselves a story that there's this guy, he's all crazy out in the woods out there, and like he's your son, right? That maybe that you would be worried and you'd call him up sometimes to make sure he's not crazy out in the woods, like hurting himself or something, which is like really ridiculous actually, because I'm not. I'm actually in a really good place. I have really good people around me, and I'm living a really good life. But I want to ask you is like maybe who would be the person that's trying to save the relationship? I who I'm worried about you guys. This is like it's serious too, because it's gonna be inside you. Like the Cain and Abel story. Like Abel went to heaven. Cain's whole lineage is fucked. So the question is if somebody was really worried about somebody that was going crazy or something, they'd probably call them every once in a while and see if they could break through to through their craziness, right?
Well, maybe I didn't call, but I did text once in a while.
I think you texted after you saw the video and you found out my cat was dead, and she was already dead for 6 months. So that was pretty, so that was the one text you did send. But I'm asking you though, can you acknowledge what I just said about that?
Yes, you've been trying harder.
So who do you think is the person what side do you think is the person that needs something to break through? Like, what do you think if and I would never call a mental institution on anybody at all because it's worse than death. But anyways, what side do you think is maybe has some cognitive issues going on here? Like some dissonance maybe?
I'm not sure what you mean.
What I'm saying is I'm trying to break through to you guys because you guys are stuck in cognitive dissonance and you're acting like I'm crazy and you don't want to have a conversation. But I'm actually trying to break through and hate and be humble enough to say, let's have a transparent conversation and talk about this and see where it goes, because that's where the truth lies, is in through conversations, right? But you know, somehow I would imagine you have to tell yourself some kind of story to like, I don't know what, not call somebody for a year.
Well, it hasn't been a year, so just don't exaggerate, all right?
Well, when was it? Like 8 months? Like it's a little bit exaggerated, but not much. So I can like tell you the exact. I can tell you like the last time that I called you, like before that that I know that you hadn't called, and that was like 8 months ago. I did a video on it. I know the exact date. So I keep track of these things, right? So I'm telling you, it's been that long. So I'm just wondering, like, well, you're telling yourself a story, like either you're avoiding something, and that's maybe having the conversation that might be kind of like incriminating But I'm willing to forgive, but the truth is I can forgive you know not what you do. If you're going to ignore the and there's no repentance that comes my way, no sorries that come my way, I can forgive you and know not you know what you do. But to have us have a family that comes from like acknowledgement of things in the past that we transgress against each other, right?
Mhm.
So I find peace in forgiving you guys for you know not what you do, because I know that we all have trauma in our family, and and I know how hard it is on your soul when you're not going into the trauma. And I also see what magic happens when you finally release yourself of it, and that's why I would hope you guys would eventually want to have some conversations, and maybe you can experience the world I live in now.
Yeah, well, maybe someday.
What's holding you back?
I'm just at this point in time, I'm not sure what is what out there.
So just like ignore it all. Is that the kind of plan, or what?
Unless I ignore it, we'll watch it and see what the hell where it's going next.
Don't you think that this conversation right here would be something that I would like to share with the world for certain reasons?
Well, I'm not big on that idea for the video. I don't want to get involved in that.
Do you understand? I didn't ask that. I asked you a question. Do you understand why I would want to share this conversation with people outside of just closed conversation between people?
Not entirely. Why?
Not at all. Maybe you'd like to clear up some of the bullshit that's been passing around about me? Or you're uncomfortable to have the conversation live, but so you're happy just to let your son sit in uncertainty with people that don't understand what's going on?
I don't know what to say.
How about just like the truth? What's really like? Stop hiding from it and just say like what it is like.
I don't have anything to say about that.
So there was some crazy shit that happened. Like we had a billionaire trying to get us 100 and what is it, 120 million or something. Like there's real crazy shit going on. It was a pretty wild
Yeah.
story, right?
Yeah.
But you were there for it and you saw it. It wasn't like a make believe delusion in my mind, yeah?
Of course not. I know it was real.
And like if anything that was I got too going on was like trying to build the prototype for this investment when I didn't have any money yet. I can say that. But guess what? I also have like a mushroom facility that I will be able to use because price of food's going through the roof. So it's like I don't still didn't lose out. I didn't spend money I didn't have. I mean, it's money I had, but I would rather have probably saved some now looking back. But I also was about looking at us getting millions of dollars. It didn't seem freaking. I was a little in the. I was like, wow, this is happening. So I went at it, and I probably shouldn't have went so hard at it. That was the only freaking issue, was like me spending too much money trying to make all these projects work for this investor. Yeah?
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
So I'm telling you, I'm trying to admit to you what I could acknowledge what was going on. Again, still no reason for police to be called and for my house to be raided and me putting in a mental institution. Still, those definitely doesn't call for that. That plus that's my own money, right? Like it's my own. I'm only hurting my finances, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing. I'm trying to give you like a understanding of what this conversation is going to be like. Is that I'm willing to point out what things that obviously were a bit out of the normal for me to act, but it wasn't a very normal situation. So, right?
You got triggered into a manic state by just a ton of fucking triggers, and that goddamn guy was flashing all the money around.
Yeah. Well,
I
like,
mean,
would the difference between like a manic state that's pathological and a manic state that's just what people do and they're like people like me. It has nothing to do with like you can call me whatever. I make jokes about it. Like I was made a joke the other day like the this world thinks I'm bipolar. Sure, whatever. But guess what? I was a person that fucking did all of this with my fucking manic. I built my own fucking property with how I've been. Have I not? I built my company, our company, with my crazy manic brain. Was that pathological then? No, and not only that, we had a billionaire trying to invest in our company. So yeah, I'm gonna get pretty excited. I would assume you wouldn't you think?
yeah.
Was it any reasons for mental health to be called on me?
See, that is what I don't know because I don't know who got that to happen.
I asked you, Dad, what is anything that you ever saw, which you were the only one with me, that would say that I was somebody that's going to go hurt somebody, like or hurt myself? You've already answered this. I don't know why you're sitting in silence. I'm just asking you the same question.
Why am I answering it again? And I already freaking told you that.
So, all right. Well, I can see it. I'm trying to say something, and sometimes it has to be said twice. This is the whole conversation is based upon that line. That's why I'm asking you again. Sure, I got excited, spent too much money to try to prove these ideas for this millionaire. Done. Okay. Anything that you saw of me, and including that, would be the only thing I can point out that was harming me because I should have saved the money, but because I didn't know the money wasn't coming.
I'll tell you the same things I told the cops when when I was on the phone, when they were talking to you about doing the mental health check. I told them there was no way you were going to harm yourself. That was the first thing he asked me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no indication of any of that or harming anybody else, right?
And so isn't it like, I hate to go over this again, but like, your daughter and your son went behind your back and called mental health on your other son when they hadn't seen him in 6 months. Like, I just want to I have to say that again. Like, dude, I just want your acknowledgement on that situation. I think that will help a lot too, because it is that crazy.
Yeah, I honestly don't understand the motivation behind it. Other than whatever somebody else was telling them, and they believed it and acted for your benefit.
And do you believe that because of the stuff that we were working on at the time, that there might be some people that would want to make me tell a story of me being a crazy person?
Well, you think they put that together? Then yeah, I mean, we had rivals out there, right?
Where
But I don't think
we were filling out like paperwork to do like cease and desist to talk to them about the plant, right?
Mhm.
That was actually stuff we did. We're calling all these different lawyers and stuff. Like that was really happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't
when
actually.
I'm going to ask you another question. So when Mike, my neighbor, right, who's built all of Tim's buildings, he even told me he's like, oh, I only paid $30,000 a year, even though he was building all these like hundreds and $1,000 buildings until the legal one came. Him being one of the person that called the police, do you think that that would be a crime, considering he is affiliated with the crimes that we were probably going to expose?
Yeah, it seems strange.
Well, I'm just saying like that he's made, probably $500,000 through these people and only paid a certain amount of the taxes to build all his beautiful houses and have his nice cars over there. And he's involved with calling the police to have me mentally health checked. Do you think that there might be a reason that he, like, maybe to cover up some? It would be better me to be a crazy person than exposing these things.
It's possible.
So I mean, these are obviously what can we do until we see a courtroom? But do you think that's ever going to happen? So I mean, the truth is those were actual things that were happening, and I confronted Andy. They knew about all the stuff that was going on. Remember, it wasn't like we were hiding it, and that was a mistake too. Right?
Yeah, I remember all that.
Andy's disappeared. I don't think he works over there anymore. He disappeared, like he stopped. That you think there is something he's running from? Notice how all these people that are involved in this story, they just disappear, and guess what? I stand still, and I'm speaking my story.
The one guy that disappears, there were more of them?
Well, haven't. They used to go to all the parties, and to be honest, I'm going to all the parties because you know what? I'm a part of this community, and I'm protecting them. Even these people in this community, even though they don't know it. So I'm gonna go show up, and I don't see any of these guys. None of them show up anywhere, and it's because they know they don't want to look me in the eye. Because they know a truth. Like Tim actually said to me that I was blocking his driveway at his house, like when I was on the phone with him. He was doing that freaking witch hunting shit right to me. So like the fact that that story just must be crazy is a little more crazy to think that people won't at least humor my side of the story.
Yeah.
The truth never goes anywhere. The lies will go around the world and back, but they still have to come right back and look me in the eye. Wow, did I ever start to understand these stories of the Bible when I see my own brother and sister turn on me so easily? Really shows you like what envy really is.
So you don't think any of it was for your own good because they thought there was something wrong with you?
Do you think that if
You can't fathom any of that? You think it's just strictly in spite of trying to take you down?
you don't
Like
think
I said, I don't know.
you don't
I
think
know
that it
what
would be
people
easy for them to just
anybody-
believe a story so they could finally be like, finally Black Sheep Patrick gets what he's been like waiting for? You don't think there's any of that going on? You don't think there's any, like, the fact that we've always had that sibling rivalry shit going on? You don't think any of that comes into play? Like the
You
fact
think
that
that they would go that? You think they would go that far for that?
nobody would call me first to like see how I was or come out and check on me before they would call the police on me. Like I'm just saying, I'm giving you reference to the situation so you can try to like, you know, do you think that there's any at all? They can tell themselves whatever story they want on the top of things. That's how we tell ourselves all kinds of stories to justify ourselves. But do you think that that was justified, considering they hadn't seen me in all that time? And also, I mean, I'm asking the same questions, but it's pointing right back at the same thing. It's like it's something that should be talked about, I would imagine. Because, you know, I've been thinking about like the let the dead bury the dead line in the Bible. And it's like there's a point where you have to just be like, okay, lop off a part of the body. And the fact that I want to have this conversation with you means I'd rather not lop you off my body. I'd rather not let the dead bury the dead. But you know what? I might have to unless we can do this. Because this is how everything must be out in the open. This is how it has to be. So, well, I don't know, like, would you be willing to ask Jordan who these people were that called him and what they said?
Yeah, I am. I will be.
Because, you know, this is all hearsay, right? Somebody can just say whatever they want. We're actually in the only place in Canada that allows people to call in and anonymous. Interior health. That's corruption.
Yeah, we got a pretty fucked up system right now.
That's straight up corruption. You should be able to face your accuser. I could just say anything about somebody. So you can see how it's built. These are witch hunt situations. That's how they get rid of problem people. Just have a bunch of people call in and say this guy's crazy. Problem handled. And on my channel, I've put 2 other people that have had the same thing happen to them, but through the COVID narrative, for them trying to fight back and just trying to educate people on what was going on. Ended up being forced, injected, and put into mental institutions. 2 of them. It's pretty dark shit, so I understand why people would rather not believe it. right?
Yeah.
But that's how cartelism works, right? Everybody's like they know who's who by all these computers and stuff, and they're only going to rise up those who are part of them. And I talked like the whole thing that happened with Ryan. That is a crime from the police for them to falsify paperwork on his suicide. And those are all the same. Like that cop that came to my house that day was at Ryan's. It's like this stuff's not, it's not fake. These are real shit that's going on. And we're all involved with it because we were in the midst of it. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. Can you tell me what you feel about this situation?
I feel sad about it. I say there's still more that needs to be known. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Jordan, just ask him some questions.
Will you agree to have this conversation publicly?
Not yet.
Why?
I don't like that.
Why?
I just don't right now.
Why?
Personal choice.
Well, that's an issue for me. I would hope you would understand why. So, what are you
What else?
what are you fearful of? Why are you fearful of having this come out?
No, I just don't want to get onto some interview situation, that's all. I don't want to do that.
Why are you fearful of this getting out?
I'm not fearful of anything getting out. I just don't want to be talking about shit.
Why don't you want to talk about it?
I don't want to speak publicly.
Why is that?
I don't want to.
You just don't want to.
Yeah.
What if I were to say that's what I need for us to move forward?
I'd say that'd be an overreaction.
An overreaction. I find that, like what you just said, like unbelievable, like an overreaction. Do I have to like go over what happened and what's still going on in our community? Do I have to? Will you eventually have this conversation publicly?
Hard to say, maybe.
So you just don't want the truth to get out?
That's not what I would think. More like I'm not sure if anything I would have to say would make any difference.
Well, I think that that's a naive way to think. Wouldn't you think that maybe it would be having this stuff out might be something that can clear up some people's perseveration on this topic?
Can't be sure. Maybe.
Because like I'm gonna share all this stuff eventually one day. Wouldn't it be better if it came from your mouth directly, rather than
Well, maybe.
it just being exposed? Because it will be exposed. Wouldn't you rather be the one that be at the head of that?
I don't know why it would make a difference.
You don't know why it would make a difference.
Something gets exposed, it gets exposed. Won't make a difference if I help.
Well, you're part of the story. You were there. You're like a witness. That's how that goes, right?
No.
So when can we have this conversation publicly?
Can't say when.
Why is that?
Because I got the shit to think about. You know, I told you, I'm not just going to jump into something like that.
Well, I mean, if you want us to redeem our relationship, that's a requirement. So what do you feel about that then? Can we do it? Because if sometimes foot has to come down. Does that change your? Sorry, say that again. What was that?
See, I got I'm not ready to do that, to go public. So we're talking about this yet.
You do know that you saying that is saying I don't want to have a relationship with you. That's literally what I'm saying to you right now.
So yeah, I mean, you're feeding the script, so all I have to do is make a choice, and then the script
I'm telling you what my requirements are for us to redeem our relationship is. So I'm telling you what it is. That's my boundary. That's my line. I'm telling you what it is. And so when you say that you're not going to, then until you are going to, you don't want to have me in your life.
That's what you're saying, right? Those were your words, not mine.
Yes, that's how this works. Like, we both have a decision whether to have each other in our life or not. It's not like we're forced upon each other, right? It is a negotiation too when we're sharing space, sharing, caring, like, being empathetic to each other. So yeah, I mean, I think that's that's what I'm saying. So if that's just not something you can do, then it's so be it. That is what it is.
That's not something I can jump into agreement right now.
Do you think that that's like a strong stance to be in?
Yeah, I'd say so.
You think it's a strong stance to be in, to not have a transparent conversation in front of people that...
No, I'm talking about your stance.
Well, my stance, but I'm asking your stance. Is it strong stance that you're in? Like, would you say this makes me a strong man to stand in this stance? To not have a transparent, truthful conversation?
Well, my only concern is I just don't want it online, that's all. But you insist on that, so I don't know what to say.
It's online already. You just don't want to back up. You don't want all the stuff that you've admitted in here that is literally like, you've talked it straight out. You don't want to back up any of my side of the story, which you've already done straight to my face, but you won't give it out to the world. Don't you see, like, what do you think about that?
I'm thinking I don't want to be pressured.
I'm telling you, like, this is the pressure I'm putting on you.
Let me digest some of this shit for a while, right?
Like last time? When was that we had that hour-long conversation? I was waiting for you to get back to me. It never happened. Because, like, I'm like at the point too. I'll always be the person that calls to try to snap you guys out of this. That's the thing, is because I actually really do care about you guys. Even though you guys won't, none of you will call me. I will always do that. But this conversation is coming to an end because I can see that you're not willing to step up and be strong and talk some truth that would help ease some issues that is in your son's life. So I have to say, call me when you want to have that conversation. I know you won't call me, but I'll call you again in a couple months just to be like, hey, want to have the conversation? Because that's what I do. But I do have to at some point just like let the dead bury the dead and let you be. You guys do what you do, and then I don't have to worry about what's going on with you guys. You obviously don't care too much about what's going on with me. So I guess that's where we're at. And so I'm going to leave the ball in your court. But I'm just gonna tell you, like, I'm very, very disappointed in your stance. I think it's like really, really weak to take your stance. Just telling you what I think. Like, if you've been a great father, you always stood up for me. You've always been a, back in the day, you would speak your mind. I remember that back in the day. But I'm telling you, in this situation, I'm not calling you weak. I'm telling you, your stance in this situation is weak, and I cannot respect that.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll continue to pray for you, and I'm gonna continue to do what I'm doing. And when you wanna have a conversation, call me, okay?
Okay, I will.
It's really disappointing how yeah. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Have a good summer. I'm certain I probably won't hear from you through all the summer, so do what you do, and I really do hope, like, I have your products sitting in, like, I have your medicine sitting in my fridge, and you, like, don't even want, like, years you've used to talk for years about how great the medicine was and talked all this stuff, and then as soon as all this happened, you're just like, nah, no more medicine. It's like, I don't know, it's just all that, it's like something just died that right there. Like, and you have a big reason to be taking this medicine. Like, you guys, if you don't know the evidence that's coming out and you haven't seen the videos I've put up, I mean, probably best you don't look at them, but it would be best if you take your frickin' medicine. I'm not withholding your medicine, just so you know. It's here.
Oh, I know that.
And you just not wanted any of it and never asked for any of it, and you're choosing to. These are the things, is like, you're choosing these things. You're choosing not to feed yourself what you know is really good for you. And you're I just, like, you're really consciously choosing these things, Dad. And that's just like, that's hard. Like, that's. Well, give Jill a big hug for me.
I will.
I know she's gonna, like, she's just too freaking smart. She's gonna wake up out of all that. I don't even know. I know there's stuff going on that I just know she's a super child, so I know she's gonna push through all of the ignorance that's going on in her life, and so I have faith I'll have a relationship with her one day when she chooses to.
Okay.
All right, I love you, and I'll always love you. My love's unconditional for you, but um, actionable love. My requirement is taking some actionable love from your side for us to start to reciprocate on that again.
Okay, I hear you. I love you too.
And really, like, meditate on this. Like, I'm gonna be putting it up anyways. It's all kind of I'm gonna talk about it all anyways. I just feel that it would be better if we just hit it face on. Be way better for your guys' mental health too to deal with this. It's tough to stay out of the subconscious because there's things in there haunting. Okay, take care.
Okay, I love you.
I told you I love you, but that's love isn't actually real without truth. They can't live without each other. Just so you know.
Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Don't hear you. Bye.
The craziest part about this situation is they called mental health behind my father's back, which was the only one that had a relationship with me, was the only one that was seeing me almost on a daily basis. And they had to do it behind his back to make it work. It just shows the darkness that's in them. It just shows that they wanted no accountability towards this situation. It blew me away when I found that out. And you know what? The fact that he still does not want to speak after he knows that they went behind his back to do that, it just shows how weak my father is. And that's why I'm going to have to let the dead bury the dead. You know, we have to balance compassion with self-preservation. And all the people out there that are going to judge me on recording my father without his knowledge, well, I don't think you understand enough about the battle that is going on in this world. And I don't think you know enough about how important our words are and how important the truth is and how important transparency is. Thank you all very much for watching this video all the way through. I really appreciate it. And please share this video. It's really important to me. I love you all and God bless.